Yo, what's up, crew? Man, I gotta tell you, I am so dang excited for who we have in this career chat today. We're here with Sami Owens. Sami, what is up?
Yes. Hi. Not much. I'm good. How are you?
Man, I'm doing awesome. You know me, man. I'm a perpetual optimist and perpetually positive for the most part all the time. And I'm inspired to have you on this career chat because I got to tell you, man, you have done some inspiring moves. Your story is it's such an example of the type of people that I want our crew coach members to be. I just want to put that out there because it's true. Like you have set such an example for so many people to follow. So I'm excited to dive into your story a little bit and have this chat with you. So thank you so much for taking the time. I know you were busy training this week. Is that right?
Yeah. It's all right. Yeah, I level 2 training for my job.
Ooh, level two. Oh man, but I bet you it feels like level 10 with the whirlwind you've recently had this past few years, right? Or a couple years.
Yeah.
Hasn't been that
Yeah,
long.
it's been nice.
Well, look, let's start back a little bit before I get too ahead because I'm so pumped up here. Are you from Ohio? Is that right?
Yeah.
What part of
Yeah, I'm from
Ohio?
Columbus.
From
Central Columbus.
Columbus. Okay. Now, when did you start in production? Because I didn't help you get started in production.
No, I was 16 and I worked for my cousin's DJ company doing proms, homecomings, bar mitzvahs, weddings. I would mainly do lights because I didn't like to DJ. I don't DJ, still don't know how. I worked for him for 8 years.
Really?
But it was like truss setup and lighting and LED walls, speakers, but like I didn't do any audio at all other than plugging in the DJ board. And then I would run lights, I would run this liquid nitrogens. Technically, I've done pyro. Um, so I basically did everything but audio for a little bit. And then my band director actually is amazing. And he's kind of who I credit my career shift to was because he asked me what I wanted to do one day. And I was like, well, music, of course. And he was like, but you don't want to teach and you don't want to perform because I was a really good French hornist. And he was like, come to my church. And I am not a religious person at all. So I was like, I'll give you a day. So I went and it's one of the mega churches with like the giant soundboard and the giant screens and all the departments. And I started volunteering there mixing. I was the only person to run up to a 48 channel analog desk and like, oh my God, what do all these things do? And the dude's like, everybody's so scared of this thing. I was like, no, teach me how to use this. So
Wait, so you were still working for your cousin's company at the time,
yeah.
and this was all during high school, I guess?
Yeah, this was all high school. So I started volunteering there, doing the live the live mixing part of it, working with bands, working with I learned how to solder,
In
did
church.
all that stuff. And then I was also working for my cousin and then transitioned to going to college in Tennessee for a semester to do audio engineering, but life happened and I moved back to Ohio, quit
So
school for a few years.
So wait, let me ask you. You said life happened. I want to talk about that a little bit because first of all, there's a lot there. Like, there's not a lot of people that get exposed at 16 to the production world like you did with doing the
Yeah.
weddings and bar mitzvahs and all of that with your cousin. Which, what an opportunity! You had no idea probably. But then this is something that I talk about is the church thing because
Yeah.
people don't realize how massive the church production market is. I mean,
It's huge.
they have some advanced technology in church, and they literally just it's a free for all sometimes for these people to come in there and learn. At that point, where you like, I'm interested in audio specifically.
Yeah, 100%. I loved working with the bands. I love working with people. I stopped doing that because they wanted too much of my time for no money. And I get it. It's church thing. Like it's, if I was more religious, maybe, but I wasn't. And I also had to pay for college because I got no help from anybody at all. Like I was paying for my own college. So I quit going there, and I just did like restaurant work for the rest of high school. But it was
Okay.
great because doing that made me realize this is what I want to do. Therefore, I applied to MTSU to go to Tennessee for
Okay.
audio engineering.
So let me ask you though, how long did you work at the church before you felt like you kind of matured out of that experience?
Probably 6 months.
6 months. Okay. So it didn't take you long. And of course, you had all of that prior experience
Yeah.
bringing into that. So if somebody was like, had no experience and they went into the church world, maybe they wouldn't have matured out of it so quickly. But
Yeah.
also, you were looking to kind of level up into professional audio, which is why you went to MTSU. What part of life happened? What was that all about?
I was a guy basically, who is now my ex-husband, was still in Ohio and didn't want to move down to Nashville to Tennessee. So I moved back up to Ohio to be with him, and I was like, well, it's fine, you know, I'll go to Ohio University, which I did. I ended up going to OU.
Okay.
And like we got married, and like I ended up staying at Ohio University, finishing my audio engineering after we got divorced. And that kind of led me through to get all of the jobs that I got at OU, like different. I was working at bars, the theater, ballroom. I was working in a Ohio University event services, doing conferences. And then I started working with different production companies around town. And because I worked with my cousin, was how I kind of got into that and doing the stuff at the church, even though I hadn't really been doing a lot of gigs in that kind of gap year. I was working in an electrical warehouse. I was still doing gigs on the side and on the weekends. Homecoming season was slammed. So when I moved down to Athens, I got hooked up with the production companies down there. And one of them, Dewey Decibel Systems, is one of the ones that I worked with the most with. He's got a whole bunch of hydraulic stages. So again, we would pull a stage out in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the street, set up all the lighting, all the sound. And then that's actually when I started mixing more and starting to learn digital consoles, because the
Okay.
church all.
So let me just step back a little bit then. Like when you were in college and stuff, and you went back to Ohio. I mean, obviously you and your then husband at the time, I mean, you guys were close, but do you feel like if you, as a partnership with your husband, do you feel like if you're just not on the same page with career trajectory and even career passions, that was the conflict? I mean, there's obviously a complexity there, but like speaking to the career portion of it, because you sacrifice a lot of your initial momentum with going down in Tennessee to reverse it back, but you stuck with your passions and your dreams of doing events and audio. Obviously, I mean, what was those kind of conversations like about the career part of it?
He absolutely thought that bringing me back to Ohio and doing a lot more local shows would want me to stay local. And throughout my college career, I worked with a bunch of Broadways. That's how I met Carl. Was Josh Turner came through town, and I worked with them at my auditorium. We did a lot of country artists through that because Southeast Ohio. The more I worked with touring crew, the more I wanted to go on tour. And the more, that's where I was like, okay, it's not just audio. I don't want to stay in one venue every single day and see different crews. I want to be that crew out there on a bus. Like,
Yeah.
I want to do that. And that's kind of the shift, because he was like, well, I don't want you to tour. So that isn't the sole reason why we got divorced, but it is a large chunk of it, honestly, because I knew that that's what I wanted to do, and I wouldn't really be happy staying in one spot.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's such a valuable insight. And thank you for sharing that, because we have people in that situation where they don't have the same vision as their spouse. And there's kind of like this hard pull to tour. Like if you want to tour, man, that's a hard pull on you, isn't it?
yeah.
Yeah. And so, you go through all of that and you're getting that experience. You mean Athens? What, Athens, Georgia?
Athens, Ohio.
Athens, Ohio. Okay, so you were still in
Yeah.
Ohio at this point,
Yeah.
and what you said that you were working with that one company. Now, this was all happening before you found me, right?
Yeah. I was working with a bunch of different companies in Athens. I was working for the school, which then put me all around the schools, different events and everything. I was in charge of a bunch of the trainings, which is actually why I like I like doing that, because like I like teaching people. It makes me feel like I know what I'm doing. And then that was awesome because being a teacher in college not only made me know what I know, but know what I didn't know. And then I was like, cool, ask me any question and either I will know the answer or I will find you the answer. And that's kind of sparked like my love for like learning new things and like learning more than, I need to, which was really cool. Just kind of like get by class. You only need to know what they would need you to know. But I like learning a lot of the other things. And then I was working at a local bar, which was really cool because the union is kind of my house and home.
So when before you found me and
Mhm.
my stuff, you were saying that you were a teacher or you were teaching and sharing and stuff, which is definitely the best way to reinforce your knowledge. But you had a degree in audio, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
technically.
what did the degree not give you in regards to building the career?
The degree was in studio production.
Ah,
I honestly, the week before I started my first studio class, I was mixing monitors for my professor. I was like, "Hey, you're Redifer, right? Like, I have you in class next week. What do you want in your monitor mix?" And he just looked at me like a deer in the headlights, like, "Why are you in my class if you're already doing this?" And
yeah.
I wanted to produce the piece of paper to show companies that I can work for something and I can stick with it instead of just, and also personal thing, like I paid for my college 100%. I had no help from anybody at all. And so it was kind of a personal thing. Even when I started to realize I didn't really need the career, or I didn't need the degree to be in this career, it was my own personal thing. I'm paying for it. I'm going to see it through because that's what I always like to do. So the piece of paper basically just said, "Hey, I can stick with what I want as a passion for my life for 4 years." Honestly, like being at Ohio University gave me all of the career opportunities around with all of those jobs. And those jobs taught me so much more than honestly those classes could, which no fault against them, but it was more of a recording. It wasn't a live act. It wasn't a live studio. It wasn't a live production. It was here's the studio. And that's not
Right.
really what I wanted to do.
Right. Well, that makes sense. And that is such a valuable takeaway to understand because it is about you and making yourself proud and reinforcing your own confidence and coming through for yourself and having that personal agency, that personal ability to take responsibility and follow through with something that you set out to achieve. And that is a huge factor in career building all across your career, which I know you found out about. And also, you were talking about how you proudly said that you paid 100% for your college, and I was thinking about this when you first reached out to me and you were going to join my program, and we'll get there. But I told you the cost of the program, the investment of the program, and you were like, okay, well. And I was like, well, do you need a discount? And you were like, no, I just need like 2 days to get the money. I don't need a discount. Which I love that. I love that about you because you were like, no, I don't need the discount. I just needed a couple of days, dude.
Yeah.
Which I love. But speaking of which, all of this happened before you joined my Backstage Crew career course. How did you go from that one production company in Athens where you're doing all that stuff? Because I think when I met you, were you like living in your van or something like as a traveler?
Yeah, I first learned about you through Carl for that show. We started talking because my first words to him were, "I've never touched a guitar in your life. I'm going to be your worst hand ever. I apologize in advance." And then at the end of the night, he was like, "You were my best hand I've ever had. Like, what are you talking about? If you need any help, let me know." And I was like, "Cool, like grab your number." And we became friends, which led me to the Backstage community group that you had on Facebook at the time.
Ah,
And I didn't really do a whole lot with it because I was still in college. And then after I graduated, I moved myself into a van to move down to Nashville to start doing stagehand work, because you can't live in Nashville without working there, and you can't work there without living there. So no apartment would accept me. And I was like, all right, screw you guys. I'm going to go live in a van down by the river, literally at Nissan Stadium. So that's kind of when I reached out, because I was like, well, I'm just doing stagehand work. Like, I need some sort of, like, I don't know what I'm doing here. I moved states away just to like try to do something, but now Nashville's huge, and I just like kind of got overwhelmed a little bit with like what my next option should be. So that's kind of when I reached out to you.
Right. And I remember this very well. And by the way, we're talking about Carl Hardin, who, if you haven't gone and watched his career chat, you should definitely go watch it. His crazy ass story. But when I met you, I remember this living in your van story and all of that, which, you know, after really getting to know Sami, by the way, she's a traveler. So like, she's traveled even outside of touring. She loves to travel, and she would very well do it in a van or an RV or something, because she loves that. So it was actually kind of symbiotic in hindsight. But she sacrificed, and really not a sacrifice, she invested in herself to the discomfort of living in a van down by the river, just to make her way, because sometimes that's what you got to do, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, so funny fact, I went to 42 states and 10 countries before I started touring. Now I'm up to 47 or 46. But it's just so funny how that was my major pull, right? Like, that was part of the reason why I went towards this direction, because I was like, I'm sorry, wait, you're gonna pay me to go places I've never been to before? Hold up. Okay.
Yeah.
Sign me up. And
That's so awesome.
it's just nice. Like,
Well, I tell you, you were a dream coaching client and student, because there are things that, like, I can coach someone on a lot of this stuff. As you know, we did it for you rapidly. But there's something that I can't coach, you know, which is that level of dream and desire, and just like, even if you don't coach me, dude, I'm doing this. So with or without you,
yeah.
you know, like, you have that. And that's something that is just magical. You know, when we met, I think I gotta tell you, I think it was less than a week, Sami. Like, you joined the BCC. I think you showed up to like maybe one or two of the coaching sessions, maybe one, and then by the next coaching session, you were already lined up something. So what did that look like? So you met me, you joined the Backstage Crew career course, not on a discount, by the way, and paid in full proudly. What was that like? Like, how did you feel signing up with me as a coach in this program? I mean, I know you like to learn, but like, did you feel doubtful? Like, what was that kind of period of your life like?
I didn't feel doubtful, I don't like asking for help.
Yeah.
And that was a big step for me, was asking for help. I mean, yes, I paid for it, but like, the internal struggles between always fighting for what I need, and like never really having anybody else with me growing up, or like always being by myself, always fighting for what I need, always having my own direction. It was a struggle to accept the fact that I needed a little guidance. But it was absolutely worth it, because again, like, it was super quick. All I needed was just a few sessions, just calls with you. And I remember you were like, all right, like, your homework this week is to go into an audio company, any audio company, doesn't even have to be the one you really want, and just go talk to them. And I was like, well, I'm not just going to go to anyone I want. Like, duh, I'm going to go to the one that I really want. So I went into the one that I really wanted, sat down for 20 minutes, waited on the dude to come back from wherever he was, and sat down. And that turned into okay, cool, I'll do a meet and greet with the interview guy. It's not going to be an interview at all. It's just going to be a meet and greet. I'm like, all right, tell me what I need to do. And I remember driving from Ohio down in Nashville overnight, because I had worked the previous day. So I drove after I got off, which was 1 a.m. was when I was done with loadout. drove all the way down to Nashville, sat down by the river because he was like, I don't know what time, just book all day. And I was like, okay. So I went about 5 p.m., had an interview because it transitioned from a meet and greet into an interview. Stopped by Carl's, said hi, how you doing? Drove back to Ohio, got there about 2 a.m., packed my bags, and flew to Hawaii on a 6 a.m. flight.
Now, yes, and let
That
me
was
just
just like,
unpack that a little bit because it was not that smooth though. Like there was a few ledges that you were on. There's a few like, because I remember getting some messages from you, and during this time, the Backstage Crew career course was like, it was the course, but it was also a little bit more one-on-one coaching with you guys sometimes. And I just remember getting this message from Sammy. She goes, and this is the truth. She's like, Kenny, I'm working as a stagehand for Crew One in Nashville, and we're doing a gig at Clair Brothers. Do you think it would be okay? Would it be cool? Would it be couth of me to just walk in the office? I'm like, yep. Yeah, I definitely do that. She's like, are you sure? I'm like, absolutely sure. And then I remember and after you did that, the next ledge was like, Kenny, they want me to come back and talk to them, but I got this gig up in Ohio and I don't really want to cancel on that. I'm like, you got to go do this interview. And you're like, but I don't know if I want to make it back. I was like, and then you were like, but they never give me a time. I'd have to wait all day. And then I got to go to Hawaii. I'm like, girl, you know the answer. You know what I'm going to say. I'm going to say, is this worth it to you? Yeah. And you sure proved it to yourself. So here's the truth. You go in there, they weren't interviewing because what it looked like, and I remember it was like open interviews that day, but they were already kind of full up. And the two people that were there interviewing, they just decided to add you in because you were boldly went into that office, right? Yeah. But not did they just add you in, they said, look, you got to come back. And we don't know when we can fit you in. And so that put a lot of like, oh shoot, like here's my moment, but this is not convenient at all. This is actually going to be opposite of convenient. It's going to be very hard. And you started to doubt a little bit, but then you leaned into what you do best, which is you move into that uncertainty, you push past that fear, you drove back from Ohio, you sat in the freaking parking lot down by the river, wherever, to wait for this opportunity. And I remember this pretty vividly because you went in there for this interview, right? And they loved you. Yeah. Yeah. They were like, we love you. Like, this would be awesome. We're only accepting X amount of people. And this was Clair Brothers, by the way, like one of the top audio companies in the world. And so you get the gig. And like she says, she's flying to Hawaii the next day because that was another uncertainty. She's like, I've got these Hawaii tickets booked. What do I do? You know, I'm just like, you know what to do. Go, coaching, right? And so she gets the gig. But then when you get to Hawaii, what happened?
Oh my God. Well, I was playing phone tag with another person who was supposed to be in the interview. And I was on a coaching call in a tea farm with you, like breaking up, trying to figure it out. And I was just like, oh my God, like this is happening. And I was like, this is like finally, but then I started doubting myself because I was like, well, maybe they didn't actually like me. And then I got the second call. We played like phone tag for a little bit.
What did I say to you? Do you remember the coaching that I gave you? By the way, you know the group coaching calls that we do here in Crew Coach, we used to do that same group coaching sessions in the BCC. And she literally is on the side of a freaking volcano or wherever in Hawaii on her phone doing planting and gardening on the coaching session. Talk about dedication, man. I'm telling you, that's why I'm so inspired by you. But do you remember what my coaching was to you when you were just like, Kenny, I'm just not sure if my message went through, and I'm not sure if I'm going to miss my spot because they never got back with me and all of this. And here I am in Hawaii and my phone's not working great and blah, blah, blah. What did I coach you? What did I tell you? Do you remember?
You've already done it. Just relax. You've already done what you could do. You've put everything forward. Enjoy your time in Hawaii.
That's right.
And
I said,
it
have
did.
faith. I asked you this question. I said, do you feel like you've done everything you could to make it work, to communicate, to everything? You were like, yes, I've done everything. I'm like, well, then what are you worried about? Have a little
Yeah.
faith and enjoy Hawaii.
Yeah. And it was nice. It was very nice.
Yeah.
And that, so I was playing phone tag a little bit. And so I was like, I'll be back in a week or two. I'll call you when I get back. And I did. I had an amazing 2 weeks in Hawaii with two of my cousins, who one now lives down there permanently because of that trip and because of
Wow.
me, which was awesome to just like leave her down there and come back. And the next day I got a call saying, hey, like, finally with the head instructor, and he's like, hey, these are your next steps. And I was like, this isn't a part 2 interview. And he was like, no, 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 just pass a drug test, here are the things, like, here's your date. And I was like, shit, okay, cool, awesome. And it was great because like at that point, that was the conversation that he was trying to have with me in Hawaii, was I was hired. And you were right, I just needed to just like, cool, this is everything I could do, and I'm just gonna plant my maki tea because that's what you do in Hawaii.
That's what you do in life. But that's such a great lesson, because faith without works is dead. That's the saying, right? From the Bible. But that's true. If you don't do the work and you're trying to have faith in the outcome, it's dead because of the fact that you didn't do the work. You did everything you could do. And that's why if you do the right things, if you do the work, if you really walk your talk, you can give yourself grace, and you can walk in a little bit of faith in the fact that like it's going to play out as it should. Because at that point, you couldn't control the outcome. You could just know that you did everything. So you get the Clair gig, which, by the way, Clair is in Pennsylvania, Lidditz, Rock Lidditz, right?
Yeah.
So when you flew back to Clair, what did that transition like? Did you just grab your stuff from Ohio and in your van and move to Penn? Like, what did that look like?
So I had to sell my van because it was having way too many problems.
Hmm.
And I was honestly, I was couch surfing after COVID. So before COVID, I was in my van. And then during COVID, I had to sell my van. So the transition between after COVID and moving to Pennsylvania, I was couch surfing on my friends' couches for months because
Hmm.
I didn't have a place to stay, and I was looking for a place in Nashville. And then I got hired, and they're like, well, you have to go up to Pennsylvania for a little bit, but then you can come back down to Nashville. So I sent an email to all of my classmates, and I'm like, hey, I've got a cat. I want a lease. Who needs a roommate? And so my roommate and I are still living together at the same place that we moved into, because neither of us really had a desire to go back to Nashville. Or well, I didn't have a desire to go back to Nashville. He didn't want to move back down to Florida. And I remember my teacher at the end of my training session was like, you're moving down to Nashville, like you're going back home, right? And I was like, this is my home. I love it here. It's amazing. I'm not leaving. Like, I'm sorry. He wanted me to go on a gig that was Weekend Warriors out of Nashville, like right out of class. But I was like, if you want to fly me down every weekend, cool. But I'm not moving. Like, this is my home. And I really honestly to that day love it here because I get to go to Nashville on tour. I get to go to all of these big, huge cities. And then I get to come back to BFE Amish Town, Pennsylvania, where
Yeah.
I live 10 minutes from the shop, 9 minutes from my favorite bar. I have all of the shop people. Like, I just love being in like the Rockledge community
Yeah.
because it is a community. There's Claire here, there's Tate, there's Four Wall, there's
Yeah.
everybody that you can really imagine just right here. And it's so nice to come back to like that small town community and then go back out on tour.
And it's
So
so beautiful out there, man. I got to tell you, like the mountains in Pennsylvania and just that whole area is beautiful. I just did the Stray Kids rehearsal there for a week and stayed at
yeah,
the Hotel Rock Lidditz and went to Per Diem and all that.
yeah,
But no, you're right. It is. It's cool. And that's another thing is all the tours they come through, so you can see your friends come to you.
yeah, it's
Which
nice.
I say friends come to you now because I remember when you were in training and you were like, Kenny, man, they've got me training, but they got me working more than they got me training.
we didn't even start class for 3 months after I moved up there.
Oh, wow.
So I moved up here in August. We didn't start training until mid-October. And honestly, we were getting sent out a little bit to work gigs and everything before training even started because that's how busy we were. That's how much we needed people. And I was working gigs before training started. I didn't go on a tour, but my class was around town and I actually did the local beer farm almost every single weekend doing the sound for that, which was awesome because I got super accustomed to the community aspect of this town. Like
Yeah.
I still go to our bar, Bull's Head, and the owner of the bar gives me a free beer because of how much I did for him that summer, which is awesome. So
It
it's
is
just
awesome.
nice.
I mean, it's a relationship life, really. Life is about relationships. I always say it's a relationship business. You know, I preach that, but like life is about relationships. The things that we want are on the other side of people, usually
Yeah.
in life, you know? And so that's what this is about. When you're just building relationships with people and serving people and bringing value, you get free beers sometimes. So you finally, after 3 months, you know, you're gigging and Claire's putting you out, like they're paying you, right? Like you're an employee at this point.
Yes. Yeah. I got
So
paid for everything.
the Claire training, that's paid training, and what does that look like?
The Claire training is a 3 to 4 month program that you go and you are in the shop half the time. And ever since my class is the transition between like the classroom inside the shop, where the shop outgrew itself. So there was no space for us. So we moved into another building, just pod two, if you were there. So we're in pod two now, and it's half class, half shop work. So you rotate through the different shops or through the different departments in the shops, which is really nice because you you see how the shop works. You gain their understanding. You also relationships. I now have 5 or 6 people who work full time in consoles and the mic department and speakers. Like I have people that if I have a problem on the road, I have their personal cell phone number that I can call and be like, hey, hi, I'm XYZ. I need an ABC. And they're cool. All right, transition. And it's really nice because it's not just, oh, I'm going to be with the same class every single day for 3 months. You're learning Claire standards. You're learning how we do things. Because again, I came from a lot of so many different production companies that I've worked for before. And Claire likes to take people straight out of or straight out of college to kind of shape and mold them how they want, which is amazing. But me coming in, I had to shed everything and be like, okay, I'm just going to start new. I know nothing. Teach me everything because I am now working for you. I am a representation of you. You are my company. You are my home. How do you do it? Because I'm going to forget everything over here and I'm going to make you teach me your way of doing it because that is the Claire standard. Because again, it is the top audio company in the world. We have high standards and I'm going to, I put myself out there to learn all of that instead of just saying, oh, well, I know everything. I went in with a very open mind to be like, I'm going to forget all of these things and I'm going to adapt my way of working to how you want me to work.
Yeah, and that's brilliant. I mean, you know, you kind of got to do that when you submit to something like Claire because they do have their own proprietary boxes and cables,
Yeah.
you know, versus like say PRG or some of these other big companies. You know, they definitely have their own way of doing things and their own thing and all that. So after you went through training and you popped out on the other side of that, like you went on your first tour pretty quickly, or what did that look like?
I was supposed to go on my first tour right out of the gate. It was kind of nice that I didn't. So we got a tour, and the last day of class was told. Two other people out of my class were told that day that they had a tour. So me being one of the three, I lost my grandmother that same week, and I went in and I actually took the phone call in front of two of the major people in my company because they came in for a meet and greet. Road manager out of Texas and the shop manager out of Nashville came up to do a meet and greet with my whole entire class. And I got a call that I normally don't ever, this person never calls me. So I picked up and like in front of my whole entire class, in front of those two people, I collapsed, just right there. And my friend came over and like held me for a little bit. They finished up their thing and they left, and I came in a little bit later and I was like, hey, I'm so sorry. This is what happened. Like, and Coyle came up to me and he's like, I don't know what happened. Take as much time as you need. I'm here for you. And so they all left, and then I went into them and I was like, hey, this is what happened. I'm so sorry. Person never calls me. I didn't expect it to be that. I just knew it was important. So I didn't want to not pick up. And they're like, no, 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 it's fine. Like, go home, go to the funeral. And I was like, I can't, I have prep. And they were like, we no longer have that tour. So honestly, I was a little happy because I would have chose to stay and be with my company in that tour. I would have not gone to the funeral, and I know that. And with my sister being in South Korea and my other two sisters being in Ohio, it was really nice for 3 out of the 4 of us to be there. But after the week after the funeral, I got sent down to do Kanye in Miami. So that was my first gig out of the gate, was a giant Kanye concert with ground stacks for days and in stupid places on decks with 100-foot drop. It was great. But I got thrown on to that, and then I started my Kid Rock tour, which is great because that was so out and back. It wasn't quite Weekend Warriors, but it was so out and back that I did a bunch of one-offs last year, and I met new people, I met new crew. I am requested on so many tours this year because of how many one-offs I did last year, which is great because I always got to do a new thing. I got to work with new people. I got to experience new things. I got to learn a lot. And then at the end of the day, I went home to my Kid Rock tour, and I knew what I was doing. I felt comfortable. It wasn't always constantly learning new things, but it was nice balance between learning new things, going on big, huge gigs like Farm Aid and Kanye and a big K-pop thing and in LA, Stapleton, like all of those things. And then I came home to like my tour, my home tour.
So by the way, did you hear what she said, people? Her first tour, aside from doing all those big one-offs, her first tour was Kid Rock. And that's pretty dang cool, man. That's really dang cool. But that's the type of experience that this industry gives you, that being in your position gives you. What did your entry role look like on some of the one-offs and on the Kid Rock tour? Were you a monitor tech? Were you a PA tech? Did you fly one side of the PA? Like what did that first role look like?
So first role is PA tech. So for Kanye was a little weird because there wasn't a side, there were like 26 stacks of speakers. So we kind of just, here's an entire Clair team, go have at it, which was awesome. But then Kid Rock, I was the only PA tech. We were understaffed. I was the only PA tech. We had a monitor / RF tech, and then we had a system engineer, and that was it. We had 3 people and then our 2 engineers. But it was nice because I broke that up. I flew stage right, she flew stage left as the monitor tech did. And then once it was all up, I did everything ground. So that was laying subs, laying front fills, wired all that stuff up. And then I patched 90% of the stage. I helped her out with her job because she helped me out with mine, because she couldn't do anything on deck until the PA was up and the stage was built. So we kind of split it in half. I would do this side and all the ground stuff. She would do monitor that side and then monitor world, and we would attack the stage together. And that was her first monitor tech gig. So she wasn't fumbling through, but she was still like not super, okay, this is what I need to do at all this times. So she really loved it when I would jump in and be like, cool, okay, what do you need to do? Like, what do you need me to do today? But it turned into a basic flow of, I would get my stuff up, all the ground stuff, patch the stage, 90% of it, lay out all of the mics, and then help her with wireless if she needed to. The one-offs are more kind of everybody as a team, just throw and go, which was also kind of nice because I learned some tips and tricks on how to get PA up and how to cable manage when there was more than just what I had on Kid Rock. So it was nice.
How did your first experience on a tour bus go? Were you nervous? I mean, I know that you've obviously lived in vehicles and stuff, but it's a different experience on a bus.
Yeah, I was honestly really I enjoyed Hope a lot. She taught me so much, and it was very nice having another woman on my tour bus.
Yeah.
Honestly, because I was like, I know how to gig, I know how to plug things in, I know how to fly things. Hope, where do I get dressed in the morning? Like, what am I doing? And she was like, well, our back lounge doesn't lock. You could do that, or you could just sleep in the clothes you wore last night, or like change into the clothes that you're going to wear today, last night, which I didn't do on that tour, but I absolutely did on TSO because I got 3 hours of sleep a night.
Yeah.
Didn't care that I was wearing work clothes. But you know, she taught me how the air works. She taught me where my shoes go on the bus. Just small things like that. Because, and I walk in there and she's like, okay, this is your bunk. And I'm like, a little far up there. All right, cool. And I was like,
You're in the top.
how do I climb without stepping on somebody? Because I was like, I climb rocks, I climb walls. I've never climbed on people, Hope. What am I doing? So it was a little nerve-wracking just because I'm of a big family.
Yeah.
I have three older sisters, mom and dad, 20 some cousins. Like I've always been around a lot of people, but never in a confined tin can rolling around the highway. But it was really nice. She and my entire crew was amazing. That tour, it was audio, lighting, and one of the backline guys. And the backline guy, Al, has been with Bob for years. Like they were kids growing up together. They were everything. So he had like top jab security. And I was like, all right. And I walked up to him one day on the bus and I was like, Al, I have a secret. This is my first tour. How do I do that? I don't even remember what it was. I asked him how to do something on the bus, and he just like got up and gave me a hug. And he's like, "It's okay, Sammy. We'll work through this together. I'll keep your secret." And I'm like, "This is amazing." It was so nice to be with a bunch of people who didn't care that it, and ever so many people were like, "This is not your first tour," and I'm like, "No, but it is." Even my tour manager, he didn't believe me. He's like, "No, you're way too good at like you're way too good at this. You're way too relaxed. You're on top of it. Like you have great command of your stage hands. Like this cannot be your first tour." And I'm like, it is. I just, you know, need to know where to brush my teeth and to
Yeah.
know to not make coffee with the bus water because I almost did that one day.
Oh,
Yeah. And it was funny because I was like, I've been in RVs. Why do I not know that? But fine.
well, it's not your first gig. You're a straight up crew
Right.
chick, but like it's definitely your first tour. All right. Well, so I don't know if you guys caught this in any of what she just said, but I'm gonna bring this up. Her second tour was another huge tour. She said TSO. If you don't know what that is, that's Trans-Siberian Orchestra. It's a very coveted tour, to be honest with you, in a lot of roles, especially in the backline world, because it's like super high pay and it's the boot camp of touring. I mean, it's some hardcore work, but it's a good organization to work with, good shows, and it's a lot of money right at the end of the year when a lot of people
Yeah.
are not working. And so she got to do TSO last year with two of my friends. Actually, I got Ruff on that gig, by the way.
Nice. I
Um,
love it. I love Rob. He's
yes,
great.
Ruff and I toured with Ariana Grande and with Bieber together. But
Yeah.
so you got TSO. What was that like? Like, do you have an option with Claire to say no, or what's up?
I don't,
Okay.
because I'm under the mentality that it's my first year touring. It's my first few years touring, right? Like I will never say no to a gig. I, however, did put in my time request. Like I went to Alaska with my sister last week, and I absolutely put that in because I was like, I don't want to work. I'm taking me time because I think that is
Cool.
hella important, especially after TSO is amazing. It was brutal for 2.5 months because it was 48 shows in 30 cities over less than 2 months. It was 6 weeks with 50 shows. So I absolutely felt that I was like, no. I'm saying no preemptively. However, I will never say no if they asked me to do something. However, I kind of volunteered for TSO
Yeah.
because that's kind of how I learned about Claire. I went up to the front of house guy. I went up to front of house and my aunt saw me looking because I always do the whole like, oh, what do you got? Like, cool, okay. And like walk by and she like grabbed me. She was like, this is my niece. She's got questions. I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Great show. Sounded amazing. Who do you work for? Cool. Bye. Because I know they're busy. Nobody wants to talk to anybody after the show. I didn't want to talk to them. I was like, they're loading out already. What do you no? But my aunt is a very sweet person. And I was like, okay, just, who do you work for? Claire, cool. Have a nice loadout. Bye. So that's kind of what got me into doing that. And then I got to tour with them as my second tour, my first year touring. So I thought that was awesome.
That's so amazing. What a huge first tour. And Sami, what, like less than 2.5 years ago or 2 years ago? This was like you were still living in your van?
Yeah.
I mean, God, how proud of you are yourself, are you?
I am super proud of myself. And I'm also super proud because I'm also moving up into a monitor tech place, which is amazing because I love PA and I love flying PA. But doing like, if you fly PA, you're done. You can go take a nap. You can do this. You can do what I don't. I have always stayed there. And again, with hope, I patched 90% of the stage most times. I worked until doors for the first few weeks of that tour every day. And there were points where her and my crew chief are like, this sucks. This is not normal. And I'm just happy as a kite because I was like, this is my first tour, guys. Let's go. I know how to work. Like, I'm not used to downtime. I was never used to downtime. I never had downtime because I was working smaller gigs where I did everything. So to step from smaller gigs, doing everything to, oh my God, this is huge. I only have one tiny part, which is to put these boxes in the air. And then you're telling me I don't have anything to do. I didn't like that. So I've always stepped by, especially TSO. I was my monitor tech's right-hand man. He is amazing. And the one time there was like a little box on the stage that had our mics on it. And there was another box that had a cable that we put cables in. And one of my primary things for TSO was the string wrangler to wrangle the local strings to get them on deck before the show. And I saw these two cubes still sitting there, and there's thousands of people in the audience. The kabuki's up so nobody can see it. And I walked down with the mic cube and just put it on top of the thing. And I started going to do something else. And he looked at me and he's like, hey, did you? I was like, no. The other cube's already done. It's put, it went on the thing. And he looked at me and he's like, I won't say this. I can't do this without you, but I'm so freaking happy that you're on this tour with me because I wouldn't want to do it without you because of all the little things you do. And that's always my mentality. Like, right. I'm at work. I never stop working. So the fact that they're putting me up into another level, who now I am going to work all day because that's just kind of like their position. It's nice because technically I've already been doing that. I've been right next to my monitor tech, learning everything that I can, learning wireless, learning how they do things, learning so many things when I could have just been, sitting in a chair.
Well,
But
it's not just though your worth ethic. Your worth ethic has a lot to do with it, obviously, but there's a lot of people that have a good work ethic, that work hard, but have a shitty attitude. I mean, your attitude and your enthusiasm for the career and the position and being out there and doing it, to be honest with you, that's a lot more bankable than just the working hard aspect. Because again, there's a lot of people that you're working side by side with. There's God, this sucks, but they're working, they're doing the thing, they're spending the time, they're plugging it in. Your attitude, man. I'm telling you, and I tell this with everybody. It's like I will hire attitude and enthusiasm beyond just the skill set because you can teach a lot of the minutia, but it's so hard to teach people to give a damn.
Yeah. I love it. There was one time my stagehands a lot of my stagehands complimented me on my attitude a lot, which is amazing and I love it. But this one time the rest of my crew was having a bad day. My lighting guy was yelling. So the other guy was yelling at the lighting dude. Like they were just, at it.
Yeah.
And I'm over here just like smiling. And I was like, hey guys, we're just gonna chill here because like my points weren't right. They needed to change. And I was like, we're just gonna chill here. I'm just gonna do like a little dance party because there's nothing else that I can do. And they asked me how I can stay so positive with everybody yelling in the background. And I was like, well, at the end of the day, like the rig's gonna go up. It's gonna work. There's gonna be a show. People are gonna be so excited. They're gonna sing along. They're gonna do all the things that they're gonna do. They're gonna go home extremely happy. I'm gonna load this out and get on a bus. And they just like stared like dumbfounding at me. They're like, oh my God, you're right. And I was like, nothing is ever life or death. I'm just gonna have a good time and load in because this is what I want. This is my dream job. They're paying me to be here. I'm having a great time. So it was nice because I was like, I'm just, even on 3 hours of sleep on TSO, I'm like, hey guys, we're just like, I do little dance parties to like, just because I can. TSO was to wake myself up. And they're like, what time did you go to sleep this morning? I'm like, 2 a.m. and it's 5:30 and I'm already in the building laying down truss. And they're like, you're crazy. And I was like, no, no, no. I'm happy.
You're committed.
And I was like, if I don't understand some of these people who are just like hating their lives all the time. I was like, if you don't want to be here, why are you here? Because touring is it's not a job, it's a lifestyle. You have to be okay with never being home. You have to be okay with, sleeping next to the same 11 people every single night for a few months. You have to be okay with getting up and spending your days 20 hours on your feet. If you don't absolutely love your job, I don't see why you're doing it, honestly. Like I know unpopular opinion, but I love my job, so I'm gonna be happy about it.
Totally. And I'll tell you, you're in your first year or two, first year of touring, now you're in your second year. And what happens, Sammy, is people get complacent and they don't continue to connect with why they're doing what they're doing. And it does become a job. I've toured for 20 years. And I am you, but 20 years into it, still that guy. And I will tell you, not that you won't have days where you'll get internal and not want to necessarily participate in the over positivity, but 90% or 95% of the time you will. And there's going to be always those people that it's just their job at this point. They can't go in, or they don't feel like they can go and figure some other thing out that makes them enough and gives them as much ego and purpose. So they stay doing it and they come in with poor attitudes. Here in Crew Coach, and from being coached by me and being in the BCC, I preach this, right? Like this is my foundation and it will serve you, I promise you, for the remaining 30 years or whatever that you end up doing this. If you keep this attitude, and just know though, like you'll run into those days where you want,
Oh yeah, I already have. But honestly, even during those days when I'm frustrated or everything, there's always at least one point, and it's normally during the show. Like I've had a shit day, my trucks were 3 hours late, my points weren't right. Like I worked through both of my breakfast and lunch. Like, yeah, I've tried not to be outwardly negative, but I'm just like, this sucks. But then there's always that point in the show where something happens or something said and like the crowd goes wild and I just like sit and I get chills like every single night. There's one point in the show where I'm just like, this is why that I'm doing this. And that kind of reignites it for me. And then I'm like, all right, loadout's going to be great. And it's all fine. Like I've had those days, trust me, but like you said, 95% of the time it's good.
Yeah, so. Man, it's what you make of it. And I'll tell you, you got a lot of really great, amazing experiences ahead of you. You have a lot of tough ones too. And it's not about balance. It's about flowing with the ups and downs of the career. Life is not a balance. This career is definitely not balanced. And so you don't try to balance something that's naturally and organically unbalanced. You just got to flow with it and bring you as that constant through it. And like I said, Sammy, I'm so proud of you, man. I'm just so excited for you. I mean, I just want to thank you again for sharing with us here today in this crew chat, or tonight in this crew chat. I know that you've been training all day. You just got back from Alaska. You got more training all week, and so I really just want to honor you for blessing us with this chat tonight. I know that you're going to change someone's perspective in life tonight through this career chat. I just know it. Speaking of which, what would you share as like one thing that you just they got to know, Sami? What is one thing that crew coach has to know? What's one thing that you just, man, if I could just tell them this, what would that be?
Don't doubt yourself. Because I've always struggled with that, but once I was like, all right, like this is what I'm gonna do, and this is it. Again, put your whole entire thing into it and be okay with that. Like be okay with putting everything out there and just not doubting yourself, thinking that it's the wrong way, because there are a million different paths that you can go to get a million different places. Just pick one and put everything you have into it. And if it's the wrong one, cool, pick another one, because nothing's never the wrong one. It's just, it might delay you a little bit. But I think that's something that I hold true to my heart, is knowing that like this is where I'm supposed to be. So.
Yeah. Don't doubt your commitments. You know, you're gonna be full of doubts, but definitely don't doubt your commitments that you made to this career, because it's possible. Sami has proven, hey, I've proven it too, but we've proven that it's possible, and it's pretty freaking incredible. So next for you is monitor tech, and then one day you'll be running. What do you like better, monitors or front of house?
Monitors, because you get to be on this in the stage, you get to be in the action of it. You only have to make one person happy. You don't have to make the band's bass's girlfriend happy because, oh, he's not in the mix. No, I get to make, if that one person on stage is happy, I'm happy.
I love it. I love it so much. Well, thank you so dang much. And hey, crew, listen, if you're watching this, we want to know, what was one takeaway that you had from our career chat with Sami Owens? Post it in the thread below. Man, I got to tell you, you have not seen the last of her. Oh, here she is. You have not seen the last of Sami. I got to tell you that. Sami, thank you so much again for joining me.
Anytime. Thank you for everything that you did. You just did the little, here you go. Thank you for that.
Well, that little shift of focus ends up being a big one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, look, again, I appreciate you guys. And hey, until next time, go get them.